Hello, welcome to QTV's flagship breakfast show this morning, and I am your host today, Mamadou Mbouch. Yes, doing it for the first time. And would you be surprised that I've got my co-host, Ade Darami?
Good morning, Mr. Mbouch.
Good morning.
For a moment there, I thought you were going to say you were Ibrahim Soribaldo.
You know,
But,
really.
You resisted that temptation.
But sometimes,
It's great to be here.
absolutely. So sometimes you just never know what we might need to do. So people, our regular viewers, obviously, you know the format. First, we go through an African proverb, you know, sort of exercise our imagination in all sorts of ways. And then afterwards, we're going to have a newspaper review. And today, before I go and I just introduce him, I've got Sid Matijao. I'm the political scientist here as our newspaper review guest. Welcome, Sid Mati.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're here, our guest, and this is my maiden, as it were, presentation of this program. And then afterwards, as usual, we'll take one or two social issues and discuss them, invite guests in here, people who know what they're talking about, then we discuss them. Today we're going to have curbing irregular migration, and then afterwards, drugs, investigating Kush in the Gambia. There we'll have our very own Zainab Chow and Bakari Kamara, who is head matron at Tanka Tanka Psychiatric Hospital. That's it. So,
Shall I delve into the African proverb then?
absolutely, yes.
It's I'm always kind of sort of fearful that they never say where this one is from.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to know that not every African country has a baobab tree.
Yes.
So it's probably from our region.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says, wisdom is like a baobab tree.
Mm-hmm.
No one individual can embrace it.
Absolutely.
Wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it.
But guess what?
So-
when I looked,
Yeah.
I Googled it, and somebody sort of just placed it in Ghana.
Yeah, is that right?
Yes, Akan, they have this sort of thing.
Okay.
Yes. So
I
that's
was
what it
right,
is.
West Africa. Then.
Yeah,
Yes,
West
yes,
Africa.
Yes,
Really.
yes.
So, our guest,
Said Matty.
do us the honor.
Let's throw it to
So
you.
am I the proverb expert?
Yeah, what's
I mean,
your
you know,
int-
for me, you know, this is a very, nice way of saying or advising. I mean, because if you look at the baobab tree, literally,
Yeah, it's
you know,
huge.
I mean, it's so huge, and to say that one person cannot hug it, it tells you that even knowledge itself, you know,
right.
is as wide as it is. That you can be specialized in one particular area, and another person might
Exactly.
specialize in that. But if you want to surround the baobab tree, you have to bring all these different parts together, you know. Like sometimes you see people holding hands
Yeah, quite.
around the baobab tree. So for me, I think that's what basically it is. Like, you know, people working together for common good, basically.
I'd agree with you. I mean, as you very much, you know, you've kind of nailed it really, because wisdom is something that is kind of all encompassing. Not everybody can be the source of all wisdom or even the source of all knowledge. And sometimes you have to draw on other people, their experience, etc., to kind of inform you about things. And similarly, if you want to embrace the tree, you probably have to get the whole community or the family, if you come from a big family, and put your arms and around it, and then you can embrace it. But yeah, I like this one.
Absolutely. And for me, when I read it, though, the first person I thought of was Goethe,
Yeah.
and the idea that only everybody knows everything.
Everything.
And I love that phrase. It's a fantastic idea. And it seems to be saying that. And I've also gone a bit further as well, even as an individual, isn't it? Before I can say that I've got wisdom, I have to tap into all sorts of experiences and people's ideas and reading and all sorts of things, isn't it?
This is
Even
it.
to form myself as an individual. I rely so much on others.
Yeah, because you're talking about socialization. You know, you've been, you know, you're not an island. This is
Right.
the whole saying that you're not an island. So, I mean, how certain things that you know, you're taught by somebody else. I mean, and so for me, it's also about that. You know, encompassing the entire social spectrum, but also understanding that you yourself, I mean, is this saying that you belong to society and therefore society must impact upon you. So those are also, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think sometimes, you know, in Africa, we put a lot of store by people's age, as if automatically age gives them wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And particularly in the technological age, you have people who their children are 14, 15. You know, they go on the internet, they probably learn more than their parents have learned. You know, where the parent had to visit 10 libraries to get the knowledge, that child can, with the tap of a finger, access libraries, 100, 1,000 libraries, and get that information and draw on that wisdom. So you know, and the knowledge. So it's never ending, and it's always evolving. Of course, you know, it doesn't stand still.
Yes, and because you've said that, another thought just sort of erupted into my head. The idea of the individual, fine, I as an individual, but even as a culture.
Yeah.
I share the world with other cultures.
Yeah.
I cannot close myself off, you know, saying that, oh, this is my culture, I have to follow it. I must be open to other cultures, for the wisdom of the world, as it were, can only be had through the sort of interaction, conversation between different cultures.
The fact that we're having this conversation in English.
Absolutely.
Absolutely proves the point. You know, we're not having it in Wolof or Mandinka or one of our own languages. We're having it in English, and that is part of that.
Yeah. But for me also, I think wisdom is not, it means to, is to be lived. You know, not to just, you know, like that's why usually, that's why usually they say with age, you know, people you know,
you acquire wisdom.
But it has to be lived. It's something that you know, but you know, it's something that you also have to use in almost everyday experiences, especially in situations where, you know, you might be surprised. And so how do you deal with that particular situation also?
That's right. Because there might be a time when you're faced with a particular conundrum and okay, how do I make a decision that's the wisest decision for this particular situation, and that's where the wisdom comes in. So it's not just having the knowledge, it also how do you impart it, how do you implement it, as it were.
Now you see, you've pushed it onto another level now. So now I'm thinking about wisdom and knowledge.
Go ahead.
What's the difference? What's the relationship? Can we venture, because it's really very relevant to what we're talking about.
It's you can know things, you know, and of course, you know, the what's the thing about the person who knows the price of everything but the value of nothing, you know. So you know, you can know lots of things, but how you implement things and how you dispense things. For example, you know, when I was at school, you know, there were certain teachers who everybody thought they were the most brilliant because they had a PhD. Another teacher didn't have a PhD, you know, when I was at university. And yet that person wasn't a good teacher. They weren't a good lecturer. And yet the other one, who only had a master's, not a PhD, was brilliant at interacting with the class and so on, and dispensing that knowledge to us. So it's not just about acquiring it and then keeping it sort of internally, but, you know, how do you communicate it to others?
That's
you know,
it.
And that's an art in itself.
And indeed, I once heard a sort of a distinction between the two. One saying that, see, with the notion of knowledge, science, I mean, E equals to MC squared and all of that, but wisdom somehow will uplift. There's something uplifting about wisdom.
I mean, I think it is knowledge that inspires, basically, for me. I mean, it's the same, because with wisdom, I mean, my English is not as advanced, but I think it's also the knowledge that inspires, because it's something that you know and how you practicalize it, and you know, basically people will see it in. And through that, it kind of inspires.
Does wisdom have an element of judgment? You having to exercise a judgment with the knowledge you've acquired. Yes, you have the knowledge. You've read everything. But does wisdom imply somehow a kind of you're having to be a judge of how you implement that knowledge? Is that what
I think so, to an extent, because then when you do it, then, you know, you also look at how people react to that particular, you know, that's why the people say, oh, that's a wise guy,
wise person,
and
this one,
you know, those kind of. So for me, I think it has that element, but also that's why, you know, it is kind of linked within our context to age,
and
so it comes with authority, it comes with all those different stuff. But evidently, like you were saying, is things are changing culturally. So what used to be stagnant is no longer, you know, it used to belong to the older generation, but now we're seeing a lot of young people, children, in fact, doing amazing stuff. And I mean, I would consider them wise as well. So, yeah.
So it seems that's essentially it, isn't it? The notion of wisdom, meaning sort of embodying,
yes,
as it were, what you've learned.
What you've learned,
that sort of thing.
I think that's what St. Matthew was alluding to.
One person called it kind of lifelong building or assimilation of ideas, as it were.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes, I love it. So people keep learning, keep acquiring knowledge, and with that,
you can do something, you learn from it. You know, you can have even mistakes. You know,
well, this
mistakes.
Is quite.
Like mistakes, you learn from it, you build it. You know, but sometimes people will have a mistake and say, "Oh, that's the end of it."
And actually, again, as Word would say, you've opened another box there, because sometimes we've seen it, where somebody makes a mistake and they learn from it. Another person who might even be in the same class makes the same mistake and they keep repeating that mistake. So the person who learns from it is the one who's being wise, I would say, you know, because that thing, that knowledge you've acquired has taught you the wisdom of, what I did was wrong. I won't repeat it. I'll do something else and see if I get a better and a different result. But the other guy who's sitting next to you, he say, "Oh yeah, I got it wrong this time. I'll try it again. Maybe this time I'll get it right." You know? And then you keep trying and trying and trying.
There's a quote attributed to John Fitzgerald Kennedy, former president of the U.S., saying that my judgment depends on my experience. But again, I get my experience from making many mistakes. So the fertility, this is a really paradox of some sort, isn't it? I mean, mistakes are so fertile. Can you imagine if people didn't make mistakes at all? Would we learn anything new?
But even not you, the one that is learning, other people can watch and learn from. Like my friend used to say, like, you know, I mean, our lives are like, you know, lessons. That if we don't learn from, others will learn from. And so therefore, you know, people just need to understand that they are not an island. You know, we're not an island. So therefore we must interact, we must engage, you know, we must be multicultural. Those elements are critical, especially if we're talking about advancement and development.
So it takes all of us to embrace that baobab.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
So we go back to the John Donne poem. Since you introduced it, No Man is an Island. So, go and read that John Donne poem. You'll enjoy it.
It's online.
It's online. Exactly. So, I think we've sort of exhausted.
I think we have, and it's given us some fertile ground for comment.
So food for thought.
Indeed.
So now, next we have the newspaper review.
We do indeed.
Eddie, do you have any headlines
I have one headline, and this is from Foria. And it says over 1 million Gambians registered with digital birth certificates and national health insurance. I mean, this scheme we know hasn't been long since it was launched. So already 1 million have been registered, which is quite good. And that's the kind of good thing about digitalizing services, really. You know, it gives you the opportunity to kind of ramp up, whilst before you had to write everything down and so on. Now it's done digitally. So yeah, I like that. Also, of course, this time of the year, rural farmers commence seeding as seasonal rainfall begins. Then I have here, I'm not sure, yes, ministers, lawyers introduce bills in Parliament. Of course, Parliament resumed on Monday after the recess, and a whole rash of bills have been introduced and will be introduced. And lots of interesting debate to look forward to. Fast Jaga Choi, gunshot victim still hospitalized. In this case, this one has rumbled on and on. And then next to a picture of Dr. Ismail Sisse, it says, government assures farmers of adequate supply of fertilizer. I hear this every year. Is this a repeat headline?
Deja vu.
And new NAWEC MD addresses media on their challenges and their projects. And of course, there's always a question at the bottom there, should a nation depend on external investors? And then NAWEC power outages increase. So those are all the headlines from the front page of Foria.
Absolutely. So we'll begin with what? Over 1 million Gambians registered with digital birth, and that sort of digitalization, isn't it, of processes and the like. Well, we set a huge store by this digitalization, you know, all around people. We feel that perhaps the administrative, managerial shortcomings, you know, post-independence, how we've been running things, perhaps with the digitalization, possibly we can begin to make some very interesting strides. I mean, Said Mate.
I mean, definitely. I mean, definitely. It's like, I mean, sometimes we say that in life, you know, people run away from pain and want to do, you know, things easily but effectively in a way. And like here, if you look at the way we work in our offices in many places, it's still paper-based, you know, and sometimes, you know, you even want to look for certain documents, like for those of us in research, you cannot find. But digitalization is so important in a sense that, one, it archives, you know, there's a possibility of documenting that and people can easily. But secondly, especially now, you know, that we are talking about, you know, young people, younger generation coming up, and most of the, you know, most of the engagement is also internet or computer based. And so it's important that, you know, our national documents like birth certificates and others, you know, people, they're moving towards
health insurance.
Well, that's right.
Being digitalized. But then when you digitalize it also, you know, it's easily, you can, if you're doing some analysis, it's very easy to know where people are located. You know, it's, for me, I always want to see more of this happening in many other areas, because it's also important. It's also important for the country. It's
important for record keeping, for tracking, for data analysis.
Everything.
You name it. It's very important. I mean, and the whole digitalizing. In Africa, funny enough, we were ahead of the curve in terms of digital money. You know, people were using digital money in Africa before they were using it in Europe, which people don't realize, you know. So M-Pesa in Kenya was there ahead. Now you go to England, I can't remember the last time I carried money with me. Everything is digital. So I get on a bus, the same debit card that I have from my bank lets me onto the train, onto the bus, into whatever, you know, you just tap it, you're in. So when I came to the Gambia, it was quite a shock that almost nothing was digitalized, you know. And so we're kind of moving to that. For example, you go to a supermarket or you go to a restaurant, somebody will come to you with a handheld device. This is your bill. Do you want to add a tip? You say yes. How much? They put that. You just tap it, you've paid. You don't have to dig into your pocket and pull out wads of money. So this is all digitalization. But for national development, you want to know the ages of people, you know, what's the demographic. You need that to be digitalized, and we're getting there. And so I'm pleased to see that already 1 million have been registered.
Absolutely. And because, of course, there you've mentioned Kenya, but the way, just how Kenyans took to, for instance, wallet, mobile money. That was just M-Pesa, wasn't it? That was quite extraordinary. But you can see the asymmetry. Like, for instance, in the Gambia. What's the penetration level
of it's getting better and better, because the good thing about digitalization and, you know, IDs and so on, even as you access more and more of these mobile money apps, you can pay people, you know, things that you have. They don't have to go somewhere and collect it. Cash, you know, queue up and collect cash. You pay, and then they can cash it when they want. And you know, you get, you know, more and more of that
and get protected from thieves as well.
Well, this is it. Unless somebody knows your ID, then they can't access the money that I've sent to you or I've sent to Said Mati. And so,
But even then, when somebody make transaction from your phone, if you haven't done it, you'll be able to
trace it.
But for me, I'm especially on the mobile, you know, money part. I mean, I'm very much interested to see how people will continuously. And I see that it is, you know, it's changing. But eventually, I think that should be the, you know, the ultimate end or the ultimate goal for this country, because, you know, at some point, sometimes you travel, you don't have money. So how do you, you know, make this mobile money to be useful? But generally, I think digitalization should be the way. And as a small country, I mean, for us,
it's tiny.
you know, it's so tiny. And, you know, we were talking about Estonia, for instance, almost everything is digital.
Quite, or Korea, South Korea.
So
quite.
There's nothing stopping us. And we have so many technical people as well. So
this is it. And, you know, I think the more we utilize it for things like this, I think the better. You know, and I mean, going forward, it'll be good to see in a year's time what the numbers are for this. And how also how they've used the thing. I mean, in England, where, you know, yes, lots of things are digitalized, but when they tried to bring in a digital ID, there was such opposition to it. I'm actually one of the ones who went voluntarily to be part of the kind of guinea pig pilot project, just to get it, you know, to see what it was like, because across the rest of Europe it's quite common. And in France or Italy or Germany, they can stop you and say, where's your ID? You have to produce it. In England, you don't. You don't have to carry any ID. And so there was great opposition to it. You know, people, they want government, want to track us, they want that. And
we all know who to blame for that.
You know,
George Orwell.
Quite.
Yes, Big Brother.
Big Brother. You know, 1984. And so it never got off the ground in England, in Great Britain. You know, so they don't have that. But almost everything else is digitalized. For example, if I want to renew my British passport, I can do it from here. I just go online, I put an updated picture of myself, and they'll post me my passport.
Just imagine that, and you see the people lining up, you know, here, you know, immigration, you know, moving away from the rural communities. I mean, that's what digitalization is supposed to be. Make life easy for people, you know, also for the administrators, you know, so that they can also focus on their job instead of, you know, facing people all the time.
I mean, driving license, again, the same. You know, you can renew it. If it's lost or whatever, you just go online, enter digital. They give you an encrypted ID or password that only you can have, and so only you can access that information. Because they're very much aware of, you know, data protection. If somebody can see something that will identify the person as Mr. Mboj, then that should not be available to anybody except you and the one authority that you're dealing with. But the interesting thing is about that is that, you know, the sort of data protection, the laws are so strict. If I come to the Department of Health and I give them my information, they are the only ones who are allowed to use it. Even another government department that might want to help me are not allowed to access that. I have to go to that other government department and give the same information, and I might have to give it 13 or 15 times, but they cannot share my information at all.
Good protection, though.
And this is about protection.
That's
It's
exactly
about
what it
protection.
is.
And so those are the things that we have to consider when we go forward with the kind of digital.
And I hear recently that we're discussing this issue of data protection and all those different, which is very important, I think.
Sure. And in our case as well, organizational efficiency. How much do we hear about the middlemen? Go to any government, exactly.
They're outside. They've got their own offices set up outside.
How do we get the middlemen out of that and make really our organizations to be more efficient without having to bribe this or bribe that? Then that's a huge factor in our situation, isn't it?
I mean, simply, I mean, you know, that's why I said sometimes you need to remove all the unnecessary aspects. And here, like when you digitalize, I go get my form, you know, I apply. It's me and my computer. Then the one, I don't even know who's
on the other end.
You know, so but you trust that it's an institution. But then you come to a middleman, then there's an opportunity that even the money that you have is not enough. You have to give it to somebody else, you know, and you create this culture of corruption, of bribery, and people not gonna get anything, just more of survival, but wasting time and all that. So for me, I think, you know, it's important that we embrace this whole idea of digitalization, ensure that there is data protection that protects the data of the individual, but also to ensure that government cannot just wait and say we don't have the information.
Sure.
But, you know, when it is digitalized, they already have it, and it is there, and they can easily make decisions.
Are you going to throw in a word of caution?
Because I'm about
to. Because just last week there was a report that went widespread. I think the Guardian newspaper were the first to reveal it. Was that the government in Britain had to contact people and say that there's been a data breach, and hackers had accessed 300 million people's health records.
Wow.
And were threatening to
Yes.
to leak them. And so, yes, it's good, but if that kind of data breach happens, then it can be quite serious.
Yes,
And that's why
yes.
WikiLeaks, I mean, this morning I heard about Julian Assange is being released on bail.
Yes.
He's flying back to Australia. Now, WikiLeaks, I mean, they revealed a lot of information about government corruption, about corruption by companies, you know, both public and private sector corruption. And again, they were able to, because the records were digitalized, they could access them and distribute them to people who wanted to know or needed to know. So, so there is a kind of
So we're done
element
with that. Any new technology comes with its own risks. So we'll deal with it gradually.
Even the paper-based, you know, fire and all that stuff. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So now to farming.
Yes, indeed.
Rural farmers now,
They've commenced seeding.
commenced seeding, and the fertilizer
That-
issue by Dr. Cisse,
Comes,
Information Minister.
Because every year we hear that there's enough fertilizer, don't panic.
yes,
And so we've heard that again. And said Matty, you know, I was kind of making light of it, saying, you know, this is, but farming is such a crucial element of this society, isn't it? And that's why it matters.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at some point, I don't know the figures now, but, you know, I think more than half of the population, one can say, might be engaged in farming. And so you can also estimate the amount of families that farming is basically taking care of, the number of students, even at the UTG, the sons and daughters of farmers. So, you know, so it's always an important sector in the country. But for me, I always look at it in terms of two conversation. You know, fertilizer available, the selling price, you know, usually of granules. And so for me, I think the whole conversation around farming must go beyond those elements.
Yeah.
Of course, if you compare last year and this year, I mean, recently I saw a World Bank report that also shows that the GDP is improving. And I think one of the factors was, you know, was due to the improved yield in farming, but also that was attributed perhaps to the supply of fertilizer.
Yeah, right.
Last year,
Yes.
fertilizer was available, and so it's also good to see that it is available this year. But also not only available, but I also saw that it was reduced from 150 to 110.
I think it's subsidized.
Yeah,
and so
subsidized
it's
in that
reduced,
area.
yes.
So there is that element that continues, but I think is an important element. Yeah, definitely.
And part of the conversation that we also have with farming is that you hear people saying, oh, we should move to modern farming methods and so on. And of course, one of the dangers and one of the reasons why many African countries have not done so is that sometimes when you mechanize, you can put 100 people out of work.
Yeah.
What do those 100 people do?
Yeah, but if you look at the nature of farming here, it's subsistence. It's more like individual farmers.
Yep.
And of course we are seeing growingly a number of commercialized, you know, farming coming up. But then you need to also be careful in terms of what is the population. I mean, you can mechanize, but the way you mechanize is either you have to put them in cooperatives,
that's right,
strengthen those processes, and ensure that they are the owners of the of both their lands and also the means that they're also using. But in terms of conversation, usually I hear people, most of the farmers, what they are advocating for is the simplest things that they can use. Because also you bring in tractor, you have to fuel, you have to pay. So people that earn more are likely to afford that along those lines. But then the everyday farmer is interested in simple farm tools, things that he could use, I mean, animals and all those things that they can use. But also we usually hear the problem of water because people want to do all-round farming. But now, you know, rainy season is coming, 3 months farming, after that, you know, 9 months of relax.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Gentlemen have just been informed that we've exhausted
our
the
newspaper
time allotted to this particular segment.
Cool.
But it's just important to know that in Fasinjaga Choi, gunshot victims still hospitalized. We wish that person well. And yes, and New Nawek MD addresses media on their challenges and projects. Recently, we've been having a few.
Well, State-owned Enterprises Commission was very hard on them.
Absolutely. So, but that would be topics for another day. Thank you very much, Sid Matijo, for coming with us.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Always happy to be here.
Really,
Thank
fantastic. So we'll go for a short commercial break. We'll be back soon.
The future is now with QCell's 5G network. Experience speeds like never before with our new 5G Rocket Fixed Internet plan. Get speeds from 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. Your 5G-enabled devices. Walk into QCell headquarters to get one of our 5G routers and experience the true feeling of 5G. Only with QCell. QCell brings you the future. Tech, innovation, incredible speed. The future is now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply. QCell, the fastest growing network in the Gambia, now presents to you the eSIM. QCell's eSIM allows you to electronically scan a code and join the world of digital SIM cards. Customers with physical SIMs can easily switch to the eSIM as well. So rush now and get connected with an eSIM and start using the latest mobile technology with your trusted GSM operator. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Looking for the perfect place to promote your product or place your advert? Look no further than QTV. We are the premier destination for businesses looking to connect with Gambian audiences and beyond. At QTV, we offer a variety of advertising solutions to suit your needs and budget. With our diverse range of programming, you can be sure that your ad will reach a broad and engaged audience. From our popular news broadcast to our exciting music and entertainment programming, QTV has something for everyone. QTV, the premier destination for advertising in the Gambia. Contact us today and let us help you reach your audience.
Hello, welcome back to our program this morning. I'm your host today, myself and my colleague here, Mr. Adedarame. So now let's move on to the next segment of the program. Usually we take a social issue and discuss it. So today we're going to talk about curbing irregular migration. And I've got here two gentlemen from the Gambia Immigration Department. Mr. Mamanding Diba, who is the Public Relations Officer of the GID.
Chief Super.
That's it, Chief Superintendent. Absolutely, yes. This is how these things are said. and I have with him as well Assistant Superintendent Samba Mbalo, Operations Officer on the Gambia Immigration Department. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
So over the weekend, we had an incident where you intercepted and brought to Denton Bridge. I just wondered if you could just fill us in.
Wasn't it 60
67 or something?
Exactly.
Yes, so I just wondered if you could just enlighten us on that, because we carried a news report on the day. Well, what has happened subsequently? Or if you could just tell us about that particular operation, because you worked with some other partners, didn't you?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ade, and your colleague, of course, for granting us this opportunity this morning to discuss this very important matter with viewers around the world. It's always a pleasure coming on this show.
Thank you.
Actually, it was a massive operation, very successful. Afterwards, it all happened when our officials, our operatives at the Migration Management Unit of the GID received an intel precisely on Thursday, 20th, that a group of people are mobilizing to embark on an irregular migration journey to the Canary Islands. So, as usual, we decided to deploy our officers around the suspected areas, and intel gathering and patrols ensued and continued throughout the period until early morning of Saturday, when the boat that they were supposed to use to the Canary Island, which was at that time anchored somewhere at sea, about 7 nautical miles off the coast of Bakau, was found.
Right.
So when this information was communicated to the base, our colleagues at Navy Gambian Navy were contacted, because this is important partnership for the fact that the GID, we don't have sea-going capabilities,
Sure.
and we don't have the capacity to go that far at sea. So we involve our partners, who are definitely our traditional partners in this whole, how do I call it, fight against irregular migration. So swiftly, a boat was mobilized, and we went and brought them to safety. Actually, they were not brought to Denton Bridge. It was at the naval base, at Wafinjago.
Okay, right.
So precisely that is what happened. So all of them were safely, evacuated, and they were subsequently sent to our migration management office unit in Tanje, where they were being processed and sorted out.
So if I could bring in Assistant Superintendent Mbalo, what happens to people then? Because that's the question everybody asks. What next? They're being processed, and then what? Are they just let loose?
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Drame.
You're welcome.
Yes, what happened with these people is, like PRO said, when they are intercepted, we take them to the migration center in Tanje. That's the center where we process all the migrants. So what we do is, when we arrive there, we try to separate them, segregate them by nationality and then also sex and even age. Because we try to identify the minors among them, the women, and more often we look at the vulnerable people. That is the most vulnerable among them. So what we do with the nationalities is that the Gambians, we ask them to call their family members to come. When they come, we discuss as a family. We sit and then discuss about the issue. We do the counseling with their family members. Then we let them go. Then with the non-Gambians, we give them options, often at times. That is, because most of the migrants that we have nowadays from the Somme region, from Senegal, Guinea, and then Sierra Leone and so on. So the first option that we normally give them is, do you want to voluntarily go back to your country? If yes, then you work towards facilitating that. Either you go back on your own, that is by providing the financial support for going back, or we contact your embassy to take you back. That is voluntary. Okay. In the event that you don't want to go back, you still want to stay in the Gambia, there are certain things that we look at. How can you live in the Gambia? Do you have any means of survival? Do you have relatives or friends that you think can support you? In most cases, we invite somebody who's going to take your immigration responsibility. Then we allow you to pay for residence permit, and then you stay like any other migrant. But it is very minimal. In most cases, they don't vie for that option. Yes.
It will be quite interesting to know. Is it an offense, legally, for me to attempt to go the back way? Do we have any legislation around that? I wonder.
No, now we don't. As we know, smuggling of migrants around the world is a crime in most countries. But in the Gambia, because we know in the Gambia we have this system of ratifying outside and we come back, we domesticate. The protocol is in two forms, that of trafficking and smuggling. It is ratified out there, but it's not domesticated fully. We only domesticated the trafficking part. This is why we have the Trafficking Act 2007. But with smuggling, we only have the bill. There's a drafted bill that is still going around. Hopefully, in the shortest time, it might be, yes. But as of now, it is not a crime in the Gambia. So the person who has been smuggled is not committing any crime, and even the smuggler, when it is purely smuggling, is not committing a crime. But we cannot also fold our hands and say because it's not a crime, you have to go scot-free. No. There are things that we look at. Because in most cases, during the process of smuggling, there are other things that may come up. Crimes may be committed along the line. So this is what we look at. And sometimes immigration officers are also committed. So we look at certain things, but not just let them go because there is no crime.
Of course, and of course when they go there, if they then rejected, I wish I had it to hand, we received a letter from a Gambian who's quite active in Germany. And he's written to National Assembly members, newspapers, saying that they should campaign to stop the mass deportation of Gambians from Germany, because he makes the case that some of them have been there 4 or 5 years, albeit they never regularized their stay, and so now they're being kicked out, and that Gambia should reject taking them, which is very difficult. But as you rightly say, even though it's not a crime here, if they go there and they've not gone by what used to be called legal means, then of course, entering that country is a crime if you do it that way. And of course, then we then have the situation where they could be deported back. But we started with the topic curbing irregular migration. Could it ever be curbed? Let's be honest. It has become almost a national pastime in the Gambia. I've learned since I've been here. I mean, we hear about it every week without fail. We hear about boats being intercepted. We hear about people drowning. And yet, even the most horrific tales don't seem to stop people. What's happening here? And what's the best that we can do, certainly, in terms of your Gambia Immigration Department?
Thank you very much. I think that is a difficult question to answer. Can we ever cope irregular migration?
I don't.
We will not be pessimistic to say that we will not be able to do it. We will always be optimistic that we will be able to curb it entirely one day, but it's not going to be an easy thing. For the fact that this is something that is deeply rooted in the minds of the people, and for the fact that also, according to the people that we interact with, they have always advanced reasons as the motivation for them attempting to go back way. So until most of those problems are addressed, it is very obvious that people will continue to attempt to use the back way, to search for so-called greener pasture somewhere, outside their borders. It is not going to be easy, but we will continue to do our best, work with the partners. At GID, we are ever committed to the cause of saving lives of our people. Because it's true people want to go out and make a better life, but it is another thing that majority of them will perish at sea. Some of them will have issues in the desert. Some people get up arrested and detained. In the course of detention they are subjected to a lot of inhuman treatment, causing death and permanent injury in some cases. So we, as a government, government, I think, we owe this to our people to make sure that, we help them to get, dignified life, to save them from those kind of, inhuman treatments here and there. So, and I'm aware that the government and partners, are working hard, to bring up options, like, helping the youths to, learn skills, and helping them to venture into entrepreneurship. Some are, doing, how do you call it, a poultry. Some are doing, some other forms of, trade. That they can have a good means of survival in a dignified manner. So all these efforts are underway, but I know resources are always a problem. So that is why those ventures are definitely not enough for everybody. But what is important is something is being done about it.
Sure. Assistant Superintendent, if I can bring you in again, you talked about when they go and they're processed. You talk about male, female, minor, vulnerable. In your experience, what's the youngest? I mean, on this recent one, there was a very young boy, wasn't there?
Yes.
Was he about 10 years old or something?
Yes.
But in your experience, what's the youngest that you've seen that somebody's either left unaccompanied or has accompanied an adult?
I think I will say the youngest that I have come across was a baby in the womb.
Right, yeah.
Because we have seen pregnant women.
Yeah,
we have intercepted pregnant women. And
I remember an
it was
incident
with very young babies.
Right.
Yeah.
2019, there was an incident, I think, a young woman with a 9-month-old baby that they drowned.
Yeah.
That's, since I've been here, that's the youngest that I'm aware of, because I remember we went to the place, Babukar C, went to interview, and this woman was crying and was saying it was her friend, the woman who had drowned was her friend, and that she had tried to dissuade her. But that's the other thing, isn't it, that a lot of the vessels, that they're not fit for that journey.
Sure.
And that's why you have an element of actually saving their lives and bringing them back to safety.
Yes, exactly. Because, going back to the youngest that we have come across, yes, we have seen very, very young people. In fact, that is something that is happening now. We have realized that in most of these coastal communities, when they hear that there is a boat that is being prepared in their community, they come out in their numbers without paying. They don't even pay. Yeah. They just heard about it and then they go out. No. And in one of the communities, we have seen very, very small boys and small girls of less than 10 years who go out at night around 2, 3. They said they want to force their way in and then join the board. So
I'm aware that happens because we spoke to somebody who he said he was a waiter. He'd been a waiter for 10 years. And he said when he saw everybody crowding on the boat, he realized that they weren't checking to see who had paid and who hadn't paid. And he just jumped on. And several people drowned. He was fortunate. He was one of the ones. And he said he would never do it again because of that experience. He said, I actually have a job. He said, when I saw people going, something in me just said, just try it. And you know, just at a kind of opportunistic moment. And he jumped on the boat. Unfortunately, over 50 people drowned in that incident. And,
in fact, even yesterday, someone was telling me, not on Sunday, someone was telling me that, you know, there's a community that they call, it's an airport now. You know, I don't want to mention names, but then they call the community as an airport because, and whenever they hear that
it's the takeoff place.
Yes,
For
exactly.
these journeys.
So whenever they hear that there's a boat being prepared, they call one another and say, look, we have to go because this is our community. We don't have to pay. And then the saddest part of it is that most of the organizers that are organizing these trips are non-Gambians. That's the very sad part of it. Okay. Collect their monies and then find their way. And the organizers don't join these boards. So the boards are always in very bad conditions in most cases. Because the smuggler is at his own comfort zone, just collect those millions, sit down, and he don't mind who is selling the board, because most often also they don't use qualified captains. They only look at people who got a sea, like some of these fishermen, whether you can sail or not. Just give you the board to go. But they don't mind about the captains, they don't mind about the conditions of the board.
You wanted to come in there?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. The situation you're having to work in. But you are the operations officer, migration management unit. So one wonders, given the circumstances, what is really the best that you can do? What would a migration management policy look like? You know what I mean? Given the difficult circumstances you're having to work under. What is the best that you can do, given the circumstances?
Yes, before giving you the best that we can do, I will give you the biggest challenge that we have.
Okay.
And that is the lack of law.
Yeah, right.
The legislation.
Yes.
Yes.
I can tell you that we have very good cases. We develop very good cases.
Sure.
Let's say in 2023 we developed 29 good cases, very good cases.
Right.
But if the case is purely smuggling, it's like your hands are tied.
Yeah, correct.
You only have to look at the Immigration Act or some crimes which are, you know, the punishments are very minimal. So the biggest challenge that we have is the fact that smuggling of migrants is not a crime.
Sure.
But what we are also doing is we don't relent, because we cannot just let it go because there is no law. So what we do is we have our base in both North Bank and then in the south in Tanje.
Sure.
So we conduct patrols with the general immigration offices. When I say the general immigration, I mean other officers outside the migration unit.
Yeah.
Yes, we conduct robust patrols, and then also when it comes to policies, we have developed an SOP, on handling smuggling of migrants cases. It serves as guidelines on how to handle smuggling of migrants.
Standard operating procedure for anybody who's
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
So we are trying our best. I cannot tell you what exactly is our best, but our best here will be what we are doing right now. Yes.
But how effective do you think that what you've been doing, how effective would you evaluate the effectiveness of your efforts? How would you say it?
I will say we are doing very well as of now. As a unit, we are doing very well. In fact, as a department, we are doing very well. But then, like Biaro mentioned earlier, we are concerned with resources. So as a result, we can only do what we can at a time.
No, just to add on to that is that for the to corroborate his statement that we are doing very well. You know, I cannot remember. I don't have the right statistics, but I know we have a good number of interceptions. We've made a lot of interceptions.
I was going to ask whether
those are deterrents,
right.
And also, we have managed to prosecute, few cases that involve the smuggling of migrants. Like he have said, those people along the lines, in the course of smuggling these people, other crimes were committed. And we have managed to use those crimes that were committed along the line to prosecute these people. So those prosecutions in themselves are a kind of a deterrent. So, and also we are cooperating with stakeholders home and abroad to make sure that we mobilize the resources that will help our operations and help us do these things. And when I talk about resources, this will involve let's say training or information sharing, and even equipment support. Okay, so the problem is a massive problem, but we are trying to do as much as we can, and I think these are some of the things that we are doing. And as we move on, right now you can see, because of the number of interceptions that are being done and the prosecutions that are being done, the level of attempts, the number of attempts, are not comparable to that of those years when it was at its height, some few years ago. So I think gradually, we are grappling with some challenges, but we are making some impact.
Highest, yeah.
Yes. With statistics, I think I can give some figures.
Please.
Like for 2024, from January to now, we already have 10 interceptions.
Okay.
10 cases we have at hand. 3 are already successfully prosecuted.
Okay.
And then we have forfeitures in those cases.
Right.
Yeah, because in some cases we intercept boards, engines, and then so on.
Right.
So there are forfeitures in those 3 cases. Okay. We also have 3 that are caught right now. Then you have other 4 that are on the investigations for this year. But for last year, we had about 29 interceptions, like I said earlier, and then we had 13 prosecutions, with 33 persons being prosecuted. So like PRO said, I think we are doing well with that, yes. Despite the fact that there is no law, but we are still having a good number of prosecutions using either the Immigration Act or the Criminal Code.
That's it.
Yeah.
So now, moving on forward, earlier on you talked about the legislative shortcomings, as it were. So I think there's a bill in Parliament, isn't there, regarding this, or not yet? So what's going on there to really give you the armor?
Like he mentioned, already there is a draft bill.
There's a draft bill.
That is the Gambia Immigration Service Bill. Is it 2023? Yes, that is being worked on. The bill, it has gone through most of the relevant stages, and I'm confident that very shortly it will make its way to the Parliament to see what how it is going to what is going to happen at the Parliament. But we are very optimistic that once this bill becomes law, it is going to support our operations very well, and it is going to make a lot of things easy for us. Because like he have really said, generally the laws governing migration management in this country, even our very own Immigration Act is as old as 1965, which is very archaic and does not respond to most of the realities that are in the society right now. So once this bill becomes law, it is definitely going to support our efforts in terms of irregular migration and many other related immigration issues.
But I wonder though, do you have community outreach programs? The legal aspect is one thing, but engaging with the community, letting them aware more of the perils,
exactly,
as it were, and all the rest of it.
Yes, so and this is one of the biggest areas of concentration that we are trying to do now, because for the fact that we have limited laws to take care of the problem, we feel that the option is that we need to engage the people at the community levels, raise their level of awareness in terms of dangers that are associated with this, and also to explain to them some of the opportunities that are available, some of the options that are available. To the issue of irregular migration. So the community outreach programs, that is very, very essential. And in fact, that is why we are in fact trying to come up with a robust plan of action that is going to be rolled out across the country. And the coastal communities, which are the main departure points for this kind of thing, and those are the areas where these things are mostly mobilized, will be a special target in this initiative, so that we raise as much awareness as possible to help people understand how dangerous these irregular migration journeys are and what are the options that people can have in place.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think another thing that we also do is, like at the migration unit that deals entirely on migration issues, we work very closely with youth groups.
Right.
And it is returnee organizations and so on. Most often when they have programs where they invite the young people to come, they write to the immigration office to go and talk about irregular migration issues. So we use that as a platform also to sensitize the general public, especially the young people. Yeah.
Absolutely. So now we've got like about a minute or so. Just finally, what would you want to share? Perhaps something we might have missed that you feel that it's important and you want to tell the people.
All right. Thank you very much. What I want to say is that migration management, especially the issue that we are talking about, that is the battle against irregular migration, should be the business of everybody. Let us encourage our youth, because youths are the majority of people. They are the lion's share of people who are usually involved in this irregular migration attempts. Let us help them to acquire skills. Let us encourage them to find other options to irregular migration. At GID, we are not against people leaving the country, but we want them to do this thing in a safe and a secure manner that will be void of massive loss of life and things like that. And also, I want to continue my call on communities to collaborate with immigration officials and all the stakeholders who are involved in this business of migration management, to make sure that we join forces, we share information to deter these attempts that are usually catastrophic.
Thank you very much, there, Superintendent Mamangdin Diba, Public Relations Officer at GID.
Thank you.
And we have got the Assistant Superintendent Samba Malo, Operations Officer, MMU. He told me the meaning of MMU, Migration Management Unit of the GID. Thank you very much. Until next time. All right.
It's our pleasure.
Okay. So I think now we're going to go for a break.
Cool.
Yep.
Yes,
And
indeed.
when we come back, the show continues.
Looking for internet for your free videos, pictures, chats, work, and school projects? Think Free Night Browsing. QCell's Free Night Browsing lets you browse the internet for free. Oh yeah. Get a data SIM, recharge a minimum of $500 and enjoy free browsing after 24 hours from midnight to 6 a.m. every night for 30 days. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. It's happy time. Get 50% off all calls to any network. Enjoy calls every day to any network from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Is it too good to be true? QCell. We innovate, others follow. As the fastest growing GSM company in the Gambia, QCell has the widest 4G plus coverage in the country, 3 times faster internet speed than our competitors. So switch now and dial *335# and enjoy what true 4G feels like. QCell, the Gambia's trusted network. QCell, the fastest growing network in the Gambia, now presents to you the eSIM. QCell's eSIM allows you to electronically scan a code and join the world of digital SIM cards. Customers with physical SIMs can easily switch to the eSIM as well. So rush now and get connected with an eSIM and start using the latest mobile technology with your trusted GSM operator. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Get a QCell SIM card for free. Yes, absolutely free. Walk into any of our customer care centers and get a SIM free of charge. With a QCell SIM card, you can get the fastest and the most reliable internet plus wide range of amazing services. So rush now to any of our care centers and get a free SIM now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Have you been looking for the perfect indoor router with long-range Wi-Fi coverage and faster internet speed connecting all your smart devices? Well, we present to you the QCell Indoor Router, a router that has all you need and much more. For just $4,275, you can get 4G plus internet speed, wide coverage, and connect up to 15 devices. That's not all. The indoor router can be used for both office and home needs. So, enhance your internet experience with our indoor router. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow.
Hello, welcome back to our program this morning. I'm your host today with Ade Darami. If you're just joining us or you've missed some wonderful, interesting segments, but take heart, we're going on to our final segment, which is Well, promises to be just as interesting. We're going to talk about drugs. Investigating Kush in the Gambia. Well, there's this new drug. They call it the zombie drug. It has recently really entered the market, and it is devastating, really, our youth. And our very own journalist, QTV journalist Zainab Chow, did an investigation on this and had a wonderful piece in our news the other day.
I think we should also point out she did not imbibe any kush as part of this story. So she didn't, so just you know.
Absolutely. So I'm joined by Zainab Chow, the one who did the story, and I'm also joined by Mr. Bakari Kamara, who's the head matron at Tanka Tanka Psychiatric Hospital. Welcome, lady and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Zainab, why investigate Kush? What was really the prompt? What prompted you to do that?
Yeah, first, I'm a person that has interest on human interest stories because with human interest stories, the emotion of people can help raise awareness for people to know the real impact of the particular story, being it a local politics or drugs like I did or anything, but for people to know the real human impact of it. So this is how strong human interest story is. But the real motivation comes from a documentary that I watched that was the Kush documentary that was on BBC, done by Tyson Conte, who is a freelance journalist and filmmaker, working with Africa Eye, BBC Africa Eye. So after watching that documentary, seeing the youth, they call it the mad wall in Sierra Leone, seeing a lot of youths, you know, into this drug. And now it is taking agreements in the Gambia, because Gambia, it's 70%, if I'm right, or 60% of youth, you know. So knowing that my country, it's like a lot of youth are into drugs. And I think of it, being somebody that is passionate or want to do, always love to do human interest stories. Because I could recall when I first started my intern in 2021 here in QTV, I was basically doing human interest stories. And my first story was the spiritual stimulants, which was the cafe tuba, why people drink kiwin, you know, to get cafe tuba, while they can get free tea or coffee in their house or offices. So, like I said, knowing the Gambia, it's about 60 to 70% of youthful population, and having this youth into this drug, you know, catch my attention that I need to talk about it. Look how youth in Sierra Leone are into this, calling it the mad wall, and, you know, knowing my country, you know, it's becoming a great man's that I should talk about this, and this is the real motivation of it.
I think we have a clip from the...
We have a clip?
We have a clip, and I hope they've got it queued
so
up.
whilst they're working on the clip, so just one more. So now, tell us about this Kush. So it's a curious name in itself. Tell us about Kush. What have you learned during your investigation?
Yeah, I know it's a synthetic drug, widely called Kush in the Gambia, that I think it has another name apart from Kush, but let's say this is the scientific name, but it is widely called Kush. And also, and during my investigation, it was hard to get a victim of it, because, you know, some people wouldn't want to be out there. But thank God he requested anonymity, in which we've given the person. But during my investigation, I know that this is a deadliest or a dangerously drug, that if youths are really addicted to it, it can cost their lives. Because imagine the victim that I had told me that a friend of his took the drug, you know, and when he did, no one was there to assist, because it makes him to swallow his tongue. And also part of the signs and symptoms of it, it could be a drooling tongue, saliva rather. That was when I have an, you know, investigation, interview with Bakari Kamara, when he was trying to give, you know, some of the signs and symptoms of it and how dangerous this is. And another thing that this, it is reported that these human bones were part of the substance added. So it's a real cannabis, but additional ingredients which was added, including fentanyl, which is very dangerous. I know he's going to dwell on that. And also cannabis too was part of some of the ingredients added it. including the human bones, which is also reported to be part of this drug. So there's so much substance or ingredients added to it, and that is very dangerous, and it could be deadly.
Absolutely. We'll come back to that. Mr. Camara, you will come in shortly. First, let's just take a look at this clip just to sort of get a good context.
Become apparent that consumption of this drug has become widely spread among youth in the Gambia, with serious health implications and societal consequences. I spoke to a source who used to smoke Kush and who requested anonymity. He shared his troubling experience of taking the drug.
I want to know what it was like to smoke Kush. But when I smoke it, I felt like someone who's been electrified, and everything about me changed constantly. The people I was sitting with were laughing at me and said I was going crazy. I was sitting beside an electric fan, and I felt uncomfortable around it. I even had to put it off and went on to take a shower, but to no avail. I decided to lie down, and when I did, I felt like I needed to vomit. After vomiting, that was the time the effects reduced. Since then, I stopped it. That day was my first try, and that was when I quit smoking it.
The experience of taking Kush has been toxic and life-threatening to many who smoke it. This testimony from a victim of this drug gives a picture of clinical cases relating to Kush at the hospital.
Kush is not good and is killing many people. When you go to the hospital, many people are admitted due to Kush. Most of them will try to swallow their tongue. Some of the people who are at the hospital are there.
Yes, quite extraordinary there. Mr. Camara, our reporter there, when the Gajaga talked about that victim being electrified, I would have thought that perhaps possessed. The person seemed possessed. How would you describe the symptoms, you know, sort of, you are like at the receiving end, I'm sure, of these tragedies, really.
Thank you so much. These psychosubstance ingredients, when they have been taken, obviously they feel like they are above the apex of everything in this world, especially Kush. Kush is a combination of different substances, psychoactive substances. The most dangerous among them is the fentanyl added to it. Because there are 2 or 3, because the indica, cannabis indica also is part of it. Then you have the tramadol, that's where they will crush the tramadol and then mix it in it. Then the human bone just come a little. But then the conclusion is still not there, because we have a tax form from the Ministry of Health, and then we did delete. So we are doing an investigation, sending our teams to Freetown and then Liberia. So our team, the preliminary investigation comes out, though there is no human substances contained there, but there is sulfate in it. But then that's the serious query, we are still on it. But that is just a preliminary, investigations yet to ascertain that whether human bone is part of these substances now. So to me, if this human bone is part of it in the Gambia here, we would have seen all graveyards been dig.
I was going to come to that, because part of the reason that whole thing about human bones came up is because in Sierra Leone there were instances where people were digging up graves and extracting bones from skeletons and crushing it and adding it to the thing. But it seemed like it was a kind of particularly thing that was peculiar to Sierra Leone, because in Liberia, where they also have a Kush problem, they didn't have that same human bone element of it. So it seemed like a particularly Sierra Leonean thing.
To be realistic, this Kush has been here for so long. Not only in the Gambia. If you go to India, it is there. If you go to America, it is there. Even yesterday, I was talking to one of the South Caribbeans. We have a social worker there at the moment, at Tanka. This is the same thing he was telling me. He's killing a lot of youths down there. And it's the same Kush, they also name it after. So, but they have American Kush, the Indian Kush, the West African coast and the likes. Right. So the West African coast, that's the mysterious thing happening now. People claim that there is a bone in it, so human bone in it. So, but then these particular psycho substances, if you take it, it electrifies your body, of course, because there is something in us, in human body. So if the moment you take it, it goes directly, sends signal directly to the brain, and the brain will just analyze it. So when the brains analyze it, because there are neurotransmitters, and these neurotransmitters are just like electricity. You mash them together, obviously they spark. So when they spark, that's the time you tend to feel all those kind of activities and the likes. So there will be a time where, in fact, some of them will feel like they are so much powerful, so much so that they could do anything, or they could uproot, like the one we usually have at Tanka Tanka. Even after them coming there, we have a 13-year-old girl from a junior school, from Yundum, have that with all of her 3 colleagues. They all took this. The next minute, they were referred to Kanifing and others in Demban. Then, for her, her case was so severe, they could not manage, and then they refer her to us. Wow. But then it is a minor. Tanka Tanka does not capture minor. So this is, but then the moment they called me from home, I told them, okay, how old is he? They told me the age. I said, okay, since it's this way, so Tanka Tanka does not capture any minor, but then for this case, we will capture it. Bring the person. Then they brought the person. So this is where she will hold her nose. She will say, if she leaves her nose, the nose will run away. Then I tend to ask, do you think that the nose, if you leave your nose, it will run away from you? Does the nose has any legs to go? She said yes. And that's the beliefs they have. That's the perception they have. Because these drugs will, will give them that maximum concentration on one thing or the other thing. The other one we had was just there to try to uproot a pole, an electricity pole, feeling that yes, he is muscular and he's powerful, he can do that. So you see how it is. Yes,
that's extraordinary. But I wonder though. Of course, I don't think we've got any firm statistics, but generally the feeling of how prevalent it is out there.
Yeah, there is statistic. People are collecting statistics because all hospitals now are being alert to any drug-related cases, especially to CUS, need to be, need to be taken seriously, and then statistics need to be taken. Then DILIT is also working towards that. In fact, presently they even released a new statistic regarding this CUS of 127, if I'm right.
From 102 last week.
Exactly. So we are hearing even yesterday the number of people who succumbs to this CUS. Anyway, I was just shocked to a certain that I had somebody dies out of it in Fajukunda Health Center, then the other one in Esau, the other one, I just keep hearing that. I said, wow, what is happening? The other one here in Latrikunda, German here. So these activities, because this fentanyl, if you take it, it suppresses your system, especially the central nervous system. When it suppresses it, then you become to have that difficulties in either breathing or, you struggle. So all those actions you are seeing, they are struggling. And then the tongue protruding down, as they claim, or protrudes out, or retract back. Then these ones are just the side effects of those medications they are using, or those substances they are taking. Because there are certain medications or substances, if you take them, it will lead you to have those side effects. Then where you will drooling salivas or you'll just be sitting, sleeping, or walking, sleeping. So as you said, zombie. That's the nature of a zombie. So these are the activities that we have been faced in real time. I know everything will boil down to us at Tanka Tanka, because all these activities, though people are taking these substances, does not only mean that they are mentally sick. They are not mentally sick, but they are using these psychoactive or psycho substances into them just to make themselves pleasure, or be so pleased of themselves, or as a coping mechanism. So where I always say again and another accept, that's not a way of wants to cope. You cannot turn into drugs. as your coping mechanism. And this is why most of them are into this.
Absolutely, we'll come back to that to really explore whether Tanka is the best place for them to be. Then I think you've written a piece somewhere saying that perhaps rehab centers would be. So, but Zainab here, the gentleman, the young man you interviewed in your story, talking about he wanted to experiment. So it would be interesting if you can sort of outline a kind of typical user profile. You know what I mean? Are they going to school or not? Did you get a sense?
Yeah, basically to make the person interview as an part of the ethics of journalism, that you need to talk to the person prior to the interview to make them, you know, comfortable around you, especially when it comes to, you know, investigative reports. So I first had a chit chat with the person because it was so difficult to get the person on board, but, you know, I built that trust and everything. So I found out that he's not going to school, he's a dropout. You know, that was prior to the interview, that he's a dropout. And most of this youth that take this drug rather, they just want to test, they want to know how it feels, according to him. You can see, like he said, he wanted to know how it feels after taking this drug. And imagine the friend that was like given a challenge of $500 because maybe he must have heard that, you know, you become zombie, or some people cannot bear this drug, you know, want to be that person. Hey, challenge. I can try this and nothing will happen to me. And that is how it happens, and claim his life. So I can say most of them are not really going to school, because he was not the first person that I tried. I tried previously, I tried other people to have them, but they did not agree to it. Absolutely. So most of them that I had to chat with them, they're not really into productive stuff. So yeah,
so
that
the
was
bravado. I can do it.
I can do it.
Yeah.
that's I guess that's one element.
And he was given, imagine $500 a challenge costs your life.
But also,
it's
if
so
you go back to
sad.
Tyson Conte's story, I think the thing that was scary was that we saw people who were in uniform. Some of them were going to work.
Yes.
Police, army.
Yes.
Somebody working from the electricity company. And yet they were in their uniform. You know, the Sierra Leone equivalent of NAWEC. They were in their, you know, uniform with all the signs there that this was the person, and they were at a kind of bus stop, and they were just kind of swaying back and forth, you know, and people were so used to it, they're just walking past them. A few people would stop and stare, others just think, oh, this is somebody on Kush, let me just ignore them, you know, and so the range there is, you know, but I think you're right.
Yeah.
A lot of it seems to be young men. There's a kind of bravado element. Oh, yeah, it affected that guy, it won't affect me. And then, you know, they end up with Mr. Kamara.
The most saddest part of it is we have women that are involved into it, because of also watch another one whereby a mother was into this drug, which makes me, you know, so sad that how would you able to raise your child if you're a drug addict? So imagine being a child right advocate. That was so sad that it gives me the zeal. You know what? You have to do this. And thank God that I know that it's really timely that we're having so many cases of it, and having, you know, kids, or not kids, I would say young people dying because of this drug. So imagine that woman, how would she rather able to raise that child if she is an addict to that kush? And we all know, as the saying goes, that children are the future of tomorrow. But I say the future starts today, so it should be now. We should raise them, you know. And if they're seeing you in that form, would you able? And we need that motherly affection. And so it's so sad that we're seeing that women are into it. And just recently there's a post on What's on Gambia saying that a young lady, I don't know if the age was revealed, that was drugged whatsoever, and he loses his life. So,
but let me just change the angle of the questioning. When you were doing this, did you get a sense from the authorities that many people had been arrested or prosecuted for selling this?
Yes.
What sense did you get from that?
According to Pasamba Bojang, who's the head of tax force at the Gambia, drug law rather, he said that most of the peddlers and consumers are Gambians. you know, which makes it alarming because we cannot have like.
I think he gets 70% or something.
70% of them.
Yeah,
it's because the first statistics I got was about 102 related cases, which has been reported, and 70 of which are Gambian. You understand? And the rest are from various nationalities.
That's right.
Yes, and we also have women in amongst the 70% of those. And the most alarming or the most serious part was that most of these peddlers are consumers, and consumers are Gambians.
We're seeing a SLP, Sierra Leone Police.
Yes.
That's somebody in their uniform. So this is not some young dropout without a job.
Absolutely.
You know, but it seems, you know, it's become such a pervasive thing in the society there.
Yeah, that's it. So now we're really coming towards the end. Finally, really, Mr. Kamara, our response. How are we dealing with this menace, as it were? How would you characterize it?
Anyway, still Kush is a mysterious drug. People don't understand yet because if you ask people, do you know about Kush, they wouldn't tell you. I've never set my eye on Kush, but then I just hear how people are using it or how they behave. Anyway, so
we need more awareness.
Exactly. That is serious, honestly, in this country now. To be realistic, one need to tell the truth. Kush is becoming very serious in this country. Youths of nowadays, and most of the time, as he said, is the youths that have been affected more. And then most of them experience it. It comes in a form of experiment. So in this, and then we are losing our vibrance and then productive, youths into this. Because I've seen so many of them. I would even want to say one of that story in Tanka Tanka is a known addict to other psycho substances, not the Kush. But when he came, he asked me, do you know about Kush? I said, no, I didn't know about Kush because I have never tested it. He said, I have tested it once, but then I would not test it again twice. Then I said, why? He said, it is different. I told him why it is different. Because it's all psycho substances now. So, but he always tell me that when I take Kush will always push me to a next world, not in this world. So, and then he said he sleeps the whole day, and unless people have to go and wake him up, try to touch him, whether he's alive or not. So since then, and think about it, he's a drug addict. And he said since then, he is never going to touch a drug called Kush.
Thank you very much. That's a very good lesson
on
which to end this. So stay away from this Kush.
Absolutely.
Mr. Bakari Kamara, head matron, Tanka Tanka Psychiatric Hospital, and of course our very own Zainab Chow. Thank you very much for that story. That was a fantastic eye-opener for some of us. And my co-host today, Adid Rami.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yes. Our viewers, until tomorrow. Ta-ta.